Everyone. Happy Sunday. I'm Tia Knapp, and
And
this.
I am Dr. Michael Gross. Welcome, everybody. Just wanted to tell everybody that those who follow us, don't forget to subscribe. And this is the last Sunday version we're doing. And
We're
starting next week,
moving.
yeah, we're moving. It'll be on Thursday evening at Pacific time, 7 p.m.
We're starting that November 3rd.
Right. And for those who are watching us, replays, don't worry about the date because it's right whenever you watch us.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. We have a great message this evening, and it's called Life Experiences.
Well, I was going to do that part.
Well, I'm sorry.
Well,
You can announce it.
no, that's okay.
And this evening we are doing
Life Experiences
all right.
by Dr. Michael Gross. So I'm just going to put a tickle lock on my mouth. And thank you so much for joining us on your Sunday night. We're thrilled to be here. And we're also really, really thrilled that we're going to be switching so that your Sunday night can actually be nothing but more than family night. Right?
Right. So
Okay.
thank you, everyone. So I wanted to talk about life experiences, and I know Tia will be helping me. And any thoughts come up, I'm more than welcome. So life experiences, you look at your life and the sum total of your life. And your sum total of your life, of course, obviously, are your life experiences. But more importantly, what have you learned and not learned? What have you created some blocks in your life? First thing I'd like to address is sometimes I call it timing. And timing is that you tried something, it didn't work. However, maybe a year, 2 years, 5 years later, it'll work. Maybe you're ahead of your time. You know, the old story about the computer. So Sperry Rand developed UNIVAC. And they didn't know what to do with UNIVAC, and it just added and subtracted. And they didn't know what to do with it, so IBM bought UNIVAC. It's kind of an interesting story because IBM wasn't sure, but they had some vision. And if we looked at IBM in the early days, they had um, mostly typewriters. That's what they had. And then they had a few little, adding machines and things like that. But someone at IBM had a little bit of a vision. And eventually they developed the computers. And they, of course, the old computer used to have a huge room, and it had to be air conditioned because all the heat it projected.
Remember
And
those huge rooms in school?
yeah, and all they did was add and subtract. And eventually they had the punch cards where you can punch in information. Then it went on a big tape or reel, and eventually it kept expanding. And then eventually they wanted to have a miniature computer, and they wanted to have some kind of software. So if you looked at software to run the computer, they were looking around. And a couple years before, maybe more or less, Bill Gates had bought this software system from a college professor, and he enhanced it, and it became Microsoft. And then IBM was impressed with it, and they used there as the operating system, and the rest is all history. And of course, we had Steve Jobs at the time using a different operating system, which we know as Apple. Everything had to do with timing. And eventually, what they did was they had some insight, they worked with it, and the timing became right for people to accept small computers. And of course, here in Seattle area where I live, story of Starbucks. And so Howard turned around and he wanted to make a good coffee, and he actually made coffee in his garage. And he
Really?
kept, yeah, he really did. He sold coffee out of his garage and talked about it.
Oh.
And people tried it, and business began to grow, and he opened up the first shop, and so on and so forth. And I point all this out because it all has to do with timing. 30 years ago, well, let me back up. Back in the 1920s or 30s, I think it was more late 20s or 30s, they actually had electric cars. They really did. They didn't catch on. They have a ton of batteries, and I don't know how long they ran. Kind of interesting. And then it kind of faded out. What do we have today? Electric cars. So I give these little stories because it all has to do with timing. So if you tried something in your life experience and it hasn't worked out, it's either wrong or the timing is not right. Either way, it makes no difference because life experiences are great teachers in our life. They teach us what works and doesn't work. They add to our expertise and our knowledge. And we also have to realize that what is going on is so many changes. So, whatever your life experience was 30 years ago, 20 years ago, 10 years ago, let's say it was a slow speed 30 years ago. Then it went a little bit faster, then a little bit faster. Then it's finally going the speed of light's going fast. And that's what's happening. I'm over exaggerating, but everything is moving more quickly. And we have to be well aware of it. But at the same time, with your life experiences, remember, you worked, you gained knowledge, and you worked what worked and did work. But now some of those old things in your life experiences may apply. And one of the most important things in our life experiences is socialization, getting together, having a one-on-one. And that is sorely missed, and a lot of people missed it. Really, what made it very evident was during the recent COVID viruses that we had, where people couldn't go out. They communicated on Zoom, which we're doing a form of Zoom, calling a different company, but we're using that device. And there'll be others as time goes by. But more importantly, we're human. In case you didn't realize, you're human. And we have to have socialization. We have to be able to communicate, have to be able to touch, feel, and express ourselves. And so what is occurring is that we look at the younger generations, and I mentioned this before, but I want to mention it again. They're so busy with their iPhones or Android phones or their computers or whatever. Scientists have told us that their brains are developing differently, and they're really, really concerned. And a lot of the teenagers and millennials, they're becoming more and more isolated. And the other interesting phenomenon I was reading about in Japan is that they get together, the millennials. They're always on their computer even when they get together. And they do some form of socialization. But they don't want to get married. They don't want to procreate. And they're not really interested in really working. They just want to have fun. And that's another life experience. Because how are you going to eat? Well, we'll sponge off mom and dad. What happens when mom and dad aren't there? Well, the government will take care of us. Well, for a limited time, the government will, but there's always a cost. Number one, there's no free rides. There's always a cost. If somebody does a favor for you, there is a cost. You do it out of love, but they're going to say, hey, I did a favor for you. It's your turn to do a favor for me. And there's a cost. And I don't mind doing favors for others because I'm in service to others, as TU is the same. However, we have to begin to look at our lives. And I heard an astounding fact that some young men, want to become part of our military. So they go down to the Army, Navy, or whatever, and they apply to be in the services. 80% of them I read were rejected because they're too overweight. They can't even do one push-up. They have trouble walking. And I'm saying, wow, what a world we're in right now. What is really happening? So if you look back at life experiences, during the Great Depression, 30s and so on, even the 40s, money was tight and people were much thinner and they were healthier. And today, people are, a lot of them, overweight. They're on psychotropic drugs. They're on mood enhancers and so on and so forth.
Can I throw something in?
Absolutely.
There's a couple of things actually that you touched on. In a world, in our country, we have a food-rich country, and yet food is being wasted, and it's there are people still here going hungry.
Yes.
And there's no balance. And the other thing I thought maybe you could address that. And the other thing that I'm going to point out right now too is I heard recently that high school kids, 8th grade kids, don't even have. And I don't know if it was because of COVID or the fact that they were schooled at home, not knocking homeschooling or anything, but they were being schooled at home through Zooms and stuff for school, but they don't even have the 8th grade knowledge that normally a child would have at this point. So something is happening in our world and our children are the ones that are suffering. And because of all these things going on in society right now. And I think that we need to focus a little bit on that as well. Like this is their time for their life experiences as they're growing too. Because if we don't address what's happening to the kids now, then where are we going to be in 20 years, right?
I agree with you. And the problem is, of course, they're all tied to computers, whatever. And at the same time, they're not learning any socialization skills. And a lot of people are saying, well, and I've heard all governments all over, well, we'll take care of you. We'll take care of you. That's really great. Now they'll take care of you. What have you learned about life? What survival skills do you have? Now, I'm not talking about gloom and doom, but survival skills. So I remember when I was growing up, I couldn't wait to get a job, because I could have my own money and I wouldn't
Me
have an
too.
allowance.
Me
Oh, I
too.
couldn't wait for this, you know. And so I got a job and I learned how to spend money properly. Of course, we overspend and we have a party. Then we realize, wow, we screwed up.
Shouldn't have done that.
I should have done it. And
Whoops.
sometimes I'd have to borrow a little bit of money from my parents for gas for my car, but I learned my lesson. And I would pay them. They made sure you know, that I paid them back, which is really important because that teaches responsibility. So it's so important that we teach responsibility and that there is no free ride out there. We talk about, the government taking care of you. Of course, yeah, well, at a price, higher taxes, everything gets more expensive, and so on and so forth. So part of our thinking is short-term thinking. Short-term thinking is we don't look at our life experiences and say, what is the positive things we've learned? And what are the challenging things we have learned? And we seem to learn more about our challenges, which is the way it should be, because there is a term called reverse engineering. And if we learn and understand reverse engineering, how did you create this dilemma? The way you create it is uncreated. For example, you're broke and you don't have any money. Okay, so you overspend. So you reverse that and say, I'm going to spend limitedly and have a little rainy day fund, which is probably young people don't even know what a rainy day fund is. But the fund is, as you know, in case of emergencies or something coming up. But more importantly, we talk about life experiences. Sometimes you're caught up in the emotion of life experiences. So if it's joyous and happy, guess what? Those thoughts, those feelings, those emotions are manifesting more joy and happiness. On the other hand, if you're caught up in the anger, frustration, fear, and doubt, guess what? You're going to attract and reproduce more of that in your life. And if you look at all that, everything we do in life has a price. And in having a price, it also is what is the outcome. And so the price is if you save money and have a lot of money and treat everybody well and love, you're going to have a lot of money and treat everybody well, you're going to have a lot of love. Okay. But on the other hand, if you do the opposite, not going to have enough money, you're not going to have enough love, enough joy. In talking to some of my clients, there's one in particular, and she has a daughter that's 40 years old and is the ultimate victim, just playing victim, 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 victim. It's like, there are no victims. Victimhood is created by the individual. Now, I will admit some people have had very tough lives, but what have they learned? And the tougher the life they have, the more successful they'll be once they get out of their own way. And that's so important. Look at Elon Musk. People made fun of him. I read a little bit that he grew up in South Africa. He was beaten up, made fun of. I believe he was adopted, but don't quote me on that. Now he's a billionaire because he didn't let anything get in his way. And the important thing is we should not let any of these life experiences that create roadblocks or challenges getting in the way. Okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Okay, and how can I change it? Reverse it. The way I recreated it, I'm going to uncreate and recreate a new reality. You always have the ability to create a new reality in your life. And in creating a new reality, what do you desire to be? So the most important thing is many souls have what we call tunnel vision. My way or the highway, and that's all there is to it. What's over here? What's over there? What's over here? What's here? Nope, this is all okay, my way or the highway. And it's like, wow, look at all the opportunities that you asked for, but it can only be your way.
They're missing out.
They are.
Missing out.
And what you need to understand is that we all came in here to learn about self-worth, self-love, and self-esteem. But also, we came in to learn that we create our own lives. And we create our own lives for a purpose. And that purpose, bottom line, is to re-empower us, to discover what brings joy and happiness, and the term I love, to make your heart sing. But you know what? Many people just don't get it. And they don't want to hear it. And that's the awful part about it. Nobody likes to be told off or criticized or judged. Nobody does. You know, when I was in marketing and sales, and I will tell you, multi-million dollar sales. So I met a lot of people, and this is not to impress you. But I always said, don't tell me what I'm doing right because I know what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong so I can improve. And if you take that attitude in life, don't tell me what I'm doing right. Tell me what I'm doing wrong in a gentle, caring, and loving way. Then I will grow and learn and change my life. Instead of saying, you did this, and criticize you. And say, well, you know, Michael, you ought to think about this and present two or three alternatives. And don't wait for an answer because that's our ego. Well, I told Michael this and he better agree with me. And you know what I mean? I want to make sure he got it right. The important thing is we use this term percolate. So you make a suggestion to someone, give them time to think about it. And maybe it'll take them a week or two, and maybe they'll agree or disagree. You know, if they agree, then they'll change their life. And if they disagree, don't say a word. That's their free will and choice. And if the wisdom you've given them based on your life experiences that is very positive, you've planted a seed and you wait for that seed to nurture and grow. And one day they'll go, I got it. And that's what's important. I will have people say, you know, you told me this 3 years ago. I should have listened to you. You know what I say? No, well, you learned a new lesson. Have you changed? Yep, that's perfect. I don't say, see, I told you so. I'm right, because that's ego.
So you don't want to you don't want to poke at them when they're percolating.
Nope. No, not in the least bit. How would you like to be told? I told you so. You didn't listen to me. You don't want to hear that. You already know that. You're already
Yeah.
embarrassed.
Yeah.
You already feel bad. So, and you're coming to them and telling them you're right. So that's what's so important for us to realize. That's part of our life experiences. So life is like a wave, comes up and down and around and about, but we learn different things. The most important thing is never to be stuck. And that's really what we have to look at. Do you want to be stuck in your fears and doubts and life experiences that were challenging? Or did you really learn from that? And the simplest thing is, one of the examples is, Michael, don't touch the pot, it's hot. I go, what's hot? Oh, I burned myself. I had to find out, right? So my mother said, I told you so? Nope, she didn't say a thing. She put a little salve on my burned finger and said,
now you know hot is.
Now you know what hot is.
Yeah,
that's it. So was I punished? No, I punished myself. But do I want to live in fear all the time? Can't touch a hot pot, can't touch a hot pot. No. Oh, the pot's hot, so I'll take a towel or I'll take something else. I won't burn myself. And that's it. So you learn something. Do you live in that fear? You criticize yourself. I was stupid. I was dumb. No, you learn
some people
something.
do, but some people do.
Yes, they do.
They get stuck in there, and it's not necessarily coming from their own thoughts, but it's coming from what other people tell them.
Exactly. So what's going on in our life is that we are not looking at our life experiences as a positive roadmap to heal and empower yourself. And working so many clients, they have only so many fears, doubts, and insecurities. And they keep referring to it and referring to it. What'd you learn from it? How long do you want to live in this? So remember, there are three phases: fight, flight, or frozen. And most souls I've observed are frozen. I used to think the fight or flight was a lot bigger, but no. Frozen syndrome. So many of us are living in a frozen syndrome, which is doubt, fear, anxiety, insecurities, looking around, what do I do? What do I do? And then you run to someone, should I do this? Should I do that? What do you suggest? So if you get a 47 people, exaggeration here, you're going to get 46 different answers. Now you go, I don't know what's right anymore. Bottom line is, what do? When you go to sleep, you ask for a sign that you can't misunderstand. and take the sign as black and white. Don't analyze the sign, because that will drive you nuts. Remember my story, whether I should come out to the Northwest or not, living in Boston. Car cuts in front of me. There's a license plate says, all of them say Massachusetts, but this one said Washington State. Usually I look at the car that cuts me off, what kind of a car it is. But I focus right on the license plate. I go, there's my sign. But if I analyze it, well, I got cut off. Oh, maybe I shouldn't go. Maybe that's the sign. I shouldn't go from Massachusetts to Washington. But I asked for something. I can't misunderstand it. And there it is, Washington. So here I am in the state of Washington.
And I'm glad you're here.
I'm glad to be here and meet all these beautiful souls. And I asked the true source, why do people have to analyze everything to death? Because they're so insecure about life. They have to double check, triple check, and quadruple check. And, in some areas of life, if you're a scientist, or maybe you're an inventor or an engineer, yeah, you want to do that. But on the other hand, in life, things are so obvious that you can't misunderstand it. So if you're so insecure about life because you have to triple check, and I go, people, no, I've been trained that way, it's the right thing. Well, I think in your chosen field, it is the right thing. But, innately, you already know without analyzing it, it's going to work or not going to work. No matter what you are, a scientist, a doctor, an engineer, whatever you are. And, one of the things is we have to look at, for example, when you go to a doctor. Now, doctors are great and they mean well. But as a friend of mine pointed out, why do you think they call it a practice, Michael? Because he sold medical supplies. I said, you know what? You got it. I understand. Because they really don't have all the answers. They may think this is the right thing. So they practice by giving you an antibiotic or a drug. Well, you come back and you pay whatever fee you pay. Didn't work. So let's try this. Well, that didn't work. Let's try this. So they eventually stumble on something. Now, the more knowledge they have and more things that they work with people that didn't work, they're able to refine the type of drug that is best for you at that time. But as Jim pointed out, it is a practice. And so what are you doing at life? You are practicing life. You are learning what works and doesn't work because that's part of your life experiences. And the one thought you have to have is, I am forever moving forward, 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 forward. Everything in life is a lesson, it's a payoff. And everything in life gives you the opportunity to find more love and joy and happiness, as long as you're not in the frozen syndrome. So looking at Tiu, she's kind of saying, Michael, indirectly, I'm reading her thoughts. We're running out of time. So I want to thank all of you. And Tia has some things she wants to share with you, as well as I do.
Yeah.
So please.
Okay. Thank you so much for that powerful message, Michael.
You're welcome.
There are a couple of things, like we said earlier, we are moving to Thursday. And all the contact information that we usually talk about on this live, we're going to put in the comments so that you can get that before we boogie out of here. And should I go ahead and we should at least say what you do on Tuesdays and Saturdays?
Yes.
Okay. So on Tuesday night, Michael does a call-in, his Words of Wisdom call-in, and it's always at
6:30 p.m. Pacific time till 7:30 Pacific time. Sometimes we run a little over, and it gives you opportunity to ask any kind of questions you so desire. But more importantly, I deliver a 5-minute message. And this 5-minute message, I should say actually a 10-minute message. And this 10-minute message, there are 253 or 54. And we'll tell you how to, what I call the reruns or replays. But I encourage all of you to join us and have questions. And if not, we'll learn something new. I've been at this for a long, long time. And I will tell you, I still learn something new every day. I don't know it all. So I would encourage all of you to call. And the way to access that is?
Okay. For the Tuesday night call-in, the number is 202-926-1059.
And the access code is 125-446-pound.
One more time. That Tuesday night call-in is at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, and it's 202-926-1059.
And the access code is 125-446-pound.
Okay, we're going to put that in the comments, but also Michael's recordings, which he has over 250 of them. That number is 434-300-4170.
And the access code is 125-446-pound. And all you need to do when you call in, it'll ask you what number, and it starts at number 3, and it goes to number 254 or 55. Don't worry which one you should pick, because your soul will pick the one that you really need to listen to. And I can't tell you how many people said, I chose number 27 or 130, and just what I needed to hear. So just trust.
Yep.
But also, there's some other exciting things that we're doing about the second Saturday of every month, and that is the mass consciousness healing. It's a very pet project of mine, because we have to change the mass consciousness on this planet from anger, fear, doubt to unconditional love. And my goal is to get 1% of the population to reconnect with God, the true source, so that you can do your missions and goals on a spiritual level. And that telephone number is?
That telephone number is 202-926-1059. And
the access code is 125-446-pound. And that's the same number as the call-in or the words of wisdom on Tuesday evening. One other word, just give us another 2 or 3 minutes, and that is, I am the founder of the TISE, T-I-I-S-E, the International Institute of Self-Empowerment. It's a 501c3, and I'm really proud of it. It has 12 arms, meaning there are 12 different projects we're going to be working with. And at the time, True Source told me to formulate this, didn't know exactly what it was for, but I just follow instructions. I don't analyze. There's a reason. I met Tiu, who's a survivor of abuse, and she's written a wonderful book, which we'll talk about in a minute. But I realized that women abuse women, children, and all men is a huge project to undertake. So that is our first option. That is our first direction we're going into. And because of what I've learned so much from Tiu as a survivor of it, empowering her, that I decided our first leg will be working with abused women, children, and men. And she is the director of that division. So I'm so proud to have you, and thank you. I've learned so much from you.
Thank you so much for giving me the honor to help.
You're welcome.
It's my time for my mission and goal, right? I've been wanting to help people for a long time, and I'm glad I have the opportunity, thanks to you.
Well, you're welcome.
So on that now.
And this is being brought to you by...
Michael wrote this incredible book called The Spiritual Primer. And just really quick, his second edition is coming out very, very soon. And I will give my little mind that if it wasn't for this book and this incredible man, that book wouldn't be written.
And Healing the Holes in Your Soul is a beautiful story about the phoenix rising from the ashes. It's a beautiful story. She has many, many wonderful, inspirational, we'll call it stories and experiences to share with you. So this is a must read. I like the guy who did the forward, I think I know him.
You do.
Yes,
you do. Start here, though, and definitely catch that one because he wrote a really phenomenal forward, and I didn't have to pay him for it.
Nope, just a smile. So everyone, thank you so much. These are great Christmas gifts or a gift anytime, Mother's Day, Father's Day, or whatever, to help empower you. It's very motivational. So we want to thank all of you for giving up your time, and we wish you well. Have a great evening, and we'll talk to you next week.
We will see you very, very soon. Michael, are you ready?
Remember, you are unlimited. Namaste.
Namaste.
Have a great day, everybody. We love you.
Take care.